You're listening to the All Systems Go podcast, the show that teaches you everything you need to know to put your business on autopilot. Learn how to deploy automated marketing and sales systems in your business the right way with your host, the professor of automation himself and founder of Automation Bridge, Chris Davis.
Welcome to the All Systems Go podcast. I'm your host, Chris L. Davis, the founder and chief automation officer of Automation Bridge, the place online to learn about small business, marketing, and sales automation, where we focus on turning digital marketing professionals into automation service providers. And if you'd like to become an automation service provider or find out more, please visit automationbridge.com/ASP. In this episode, I want to discuss overcoming shiny object syndrome so that you can effectively craft the right, or I should say the profitable customer journey with Jade Olivia. And she is both a former professional cheerleader and dancer and currently a successful marketing automation consultant. Jade combines those passions to educate and uplift entrepreneurs all over the world, and you will get a feel of Jade's energy the minute I ask her how she's doing. And what I liked about recording this podcast is that there's a gem in here. We came on and we were talking about shiny object syndrome and how it's distracting from really crafting the customer journey that your customers deserve. And Jade said something and we went on a great tangent for you all. And she uncovered an automation and some of the things that she's using in that automation. Trust me, you will enjoy it. You will enjoy it. It blessed me. I said, wait a minute, Jade, what was that automation again? So that's in this episode. Before we jump into it, if you're new to the podcast, make sure that you listen to this episode in its entirety so you know exactly what you're subscribing and rating and reviewing. Okay, I would love to tell you just do it blindly, but it's better and it's a lot stronger when it's your decision based on the content that you've heard. Okay, so if you're new, listen to it in its entirety. At the end, I'll give you your invitation. For those of you who are listeners and not subscribed, we're in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can even subscribe on YouTube. Okay. And while you're at it, your 5-star ratings and reviews will be greatly appreciated. If you're struggling in any capacity trying to figure out how to leave a review, go to automationbridge.com/review, post it there, and we'll handle the rest for you. All right. Let's jump right into today's episode. Jade, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm amazing. Best day of my life.
It's funny because now that I've had a chance to meet you, everybody will know by the end of this podcast why that answer was the most appropriate answer for you. Yep. Right? That's why it's the best day. So we're today. What I'm really looking forward to is talking about the customer journey. Here's what I find, Jade. You can never talk too much about the customer journey. There's so many aspects. And when it's oversimplified with the word funnel, it really doesn't do its true justice, right? So we'll talk about that and how shiny object syndrome, it gets us all, Jade, right? Like it gets all of us. But before we jump into it, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and your business.
Yeah. Wow. Well, first of all, it's awesome to be here. I'm a fan. Your voice is extremely soothing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can educate myself and get my listening in at the same time. It's amazing. I love it. So I'm a fan. Really happy to be here. But I thought this was an excellent fit. And I'm so glad to share this information because I kind of hit a lot of shared aspects of your audience and the things that we're all trying to accomplish. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I was not always an entrepreneur. So I was once a grossly underpaid 9-to-5er, broke free from that, all the trials and tribulations, emotional ups and downs of being a business owner. I'm also a single mother of 3 kids, 5 and under. So there's challenges with
Congratulations.
that.
Man.
Thank you. During
Yeah.
COVID, and just everything is just constantly stretching and growing and changing, and that's why, like you said, the customer journey is so applicable to everything at all times. It doesn't matter if you're new business, an established business, a growing business, a calm business, an erratic business. This is applicable. It's like those back when we were kids in school, they had the like overhead projector with like the clear thing that they would like dry erase
Yeah.
on.
Yep.
If you just constantly lay that on top of your business as like something to look through, like the
Hmm.
framework to adjust, it's so helpful and kind of helps you find you can take a deep breath when
Yep.
things are just all over the place. But yeah, I share a lot of things in common with your listeners, and a lot of experiences, and we all have our unique trials and tribulations, of course. But I, I I speak well, and I listen and I bond with your guests and with their audience as well.
Yeah, yeah. So let me poke a little bit here because I'm always interested in piecing together where you were with where you are now. When you were a 9 to 5, what was that? And then what was the event that led you to transition from it?
Wow. Okay. So I used to be, like I said, extremely underpaid, but always like all entrepreneurs, wildly creative and excitable, and
Mm,
I've always had bigger dreams and thought these things would be given to me, and of course they never were. So you kind of
hmm.
have to break free and create it for yourself at some point when you've hit your wall. So my wall was hit last year in March, at the same time that the world was being locked down. Schools were closing, pandemic
Mm,
restrictions were really taking effect, and people were understanding the enormity of it all. I also I broke up with my husband, who I'd been with since I was 19 years old,
mm,
and he's a great, great, great man, and we were just kind of like suffocating each other emotionally. He's a phenomenal human being. But in order for me to grow and for him to grow, we couldn't stay together. So
hmm.
I moved out. I've never lived alone before because we'd been together for so long. And
Wow.
I went from from an unhealthy, like codependent relationship to a trying things on my own for the first time. And then I also quit my job because it was kind of like a now or never kind of a thing where,
Mm,
um, you know, uh, like the shit hit the fan with like friendships and relationships, and then things were just kind of like at this tension point where I was like, I just got to cut it all.
just reset.
So yeah, so I
Hmm.
was an Infusionsoft user at my previous job, and having been a little chummy with some of the people in the Keep community, the greater Keep community,
Hmm.
I said, should I get myself certified? And they were like, absolutely. And then from there, I realized, and this isn't exclusive to Keep,
Hmm.
when you're an entrepreneur and you're around other entrepreneurs, like I was high. That's it. Like being around people with that same, like,
Yeah.
we can change the world with an idea mindset, and what are boundaries? They don't exist for us type mindset. And
Yep.
what if we change our mind and do something different today type mindset? And I was like, you're my people. I can't be anywhere else ever again.
Hmm.
And every person I met was so kind and caring and gave me so much guidance and advice. And every person I met opened 5 more doors, opened 5 more doors, opened 5 more doors. And you can,
Love it.
I'm not great at math, but let's just pretend we know what that means. So
Exponential growth.
yeah.
Now, thank you for sharing that because that helps piece some of the puzzle together. Where the transferable skills, and sometimes we're aware that the skills we're developing on our job are transferable in a way, and sometimes we're not. So for you to be able to get exposure to Infusionsoft early and really limit some of the choices, right? Like, okay, well, maybe I should just go in deep with this. And it's again, it's homage paid to Infusionsoft, because I can't imagine. I don't know if they Keep, I should say, Keep by Infusionsoft by Keep. I don't know if they can quantify how many businesses in the automation space they have truly birthed. because I'm one of them. Like that was my first certification ever. And they equipped me with so many tools and resources to be confident, because that's the biggest thing when you start specific to marketing automation. It was new, especially when I got certified, but it's still very new now. And a lot of, I guess it's not specific to marketing automation, just anywhere, how you show up, your pricing, what you offer, it's all a reflection of what you believe about yourself. Right. And sometimes the market can be screaming, you're better, you're greater. But if you don't believe it and you don't have that confidence, you're always going to operate at the level that you believe that you should. So when I got certified, they gave me so many resources. I felt like, hey, look, I can do this, and I could do it at a very high level and demand prices accordingly. So yeah, that's a really, I'm still taken aback at, you could have taken the approach like, wait a minute, too many things changing at once. Only one thing is allowed to change, and I have to keep everything constant till I get a hold of this, and to just say, you know what? Where's that red switch that just blows everything up?
Exactly.
Just hit that switch. And I have to say, in our short time knowing each other, it sounds like you've really found you, in the process. And now you stand before us today with the customer journey in your crosshairs and this inspirational, like firebug, like this bright light when it's dark. It's like, oh, look at all of those lights, that it appears to me. That's how I view you, for these entrepreneurs, to really help in a community aspect, because the community was so helpful for you, to give back. But let's get into the topic here. And we're talking about the customer journey, okay? And this is like, hey, so listeners, we didn't rehearse this. I'm gonna try to put Jade on the spot, but I have a feeling that she's just gonna it's just gonna cause her to excel, right? So I'm gonna ask you this question, Jade. What qualifies you to speak on shiny object syndrome?
That's an excellent question. So the life cycle marketing customer journey concept, it's not owned by Keep, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of business 101. But it's one of those things that's so foundational and basic, and that once you leave your first day of school, you get excited about everything else you're learning. So it's abandoned all too often. And in the last year, as a marketing automation consultant, almost every single one of my clients has been an established business that already had Keep, and I had to go in and fix stuff. And it's not that the things that I were fixing were, they didn't have bad providers or bad tools and services or bad advice before, but the beauty of the customer journey is that it's like, okay, there's lots of cool stuff out there, but what are you going to focus on, and what are you going to focus on it with, and where are you going to spend your time and money? And I have spent the last year and making quite a bit of money fixing people who were spending the wrong money on the wrong things at the right time. So I had to go in and patch things up and apply this lens on top of it and say, okay, let's take a deep breath. Where are people falling off, and where should we actually spend your money?
Yeah, that's a powerful statement, right? Spending your money on the wrong things at the right time. I cringe just thinking about it, because it happens too often. And it's, anybody that's been listening to this podcast knows that one of the solutions is to start with strategy, because if you don't start with strategy, there's no way to determine the technology. So when you come in and you're driving what I call the automation ambulance. We all drive it in some capacity, and you're coming in and you're fixing. What would you say are some of the trends that you're seeing? It doesn't matter what type of business, that really draws people to fall into this shiny object syndrome. And when they think that they're actually being conducive to building out the customer journey.
Right. Well, the funny thing is that, as a marketer, generally speaking, I'm helping people who were sold on something by really good marketers. It's like we're all doing this to ourselves because I mean, if
Yeah.
you if you're
Yeah.
if you sell a shiny object, which we all do,
Hmm.
and you believe in it and you believe that it can really help people. But again, so like here's my favorite example when I explain this to
Hmm.
people, especially people outside of digital marketing. I say, think about someone who's had a huge impact on your life, your spouse, a teacher when you were a kid, someone who just like changed your life. Now, think about if that person had done that thing, maybe you met your spouse, or maybe that teacher gave you that piece of advice. What if that had happened 5 years before or 5 years after?
Mm.
Would especially relationships, it's all about
Hmm.
timing. If you
Hmm.
what if you met your spouse 5 years later? Well, then they might be married to someone else, or you might not be single. Or what if that teacher told you, get your shit together, oops, sorry, get your stuff together, and but you didn't need it at that time, you didn't need a butt kicking yet.
Hmm.
So the same goes for, do you need pop-up ads on your website? Do you need a chat bot? Do you need help scout? Do you
Mm.
need, SMS? Do you need this? Do you need that? They're all amazing. None of these things suck. You don't suck.
Yeah.
Nothing sucks. It's all the power of right place, right time. And this is a great, it's like, the prism glasses you're looking through and everything's all shiny and sparkly, but it's really just one little thing.
Yeah.
Find that one little thing to laser focus on and then buy the shiny thing for that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's efficiency, right? Trimming the fat and getting to the core of what's going to move you forward. So what are some of the what are some of the things that you what what is your strategy? Let me ask you like that. What is your strategic approach to identifying the right time?
Great question. I ask a lot of questions and
Mm.
then I stop talking.
Mm.
So, for those of you who aren't familiar with the beautiful picture that, the Keep themselves made and they provide for their certified partners, is it's a picture where the concept itself is the picture, and then altitude number 2 is collecting leads, converting clients, creating fans. 3 very simple phases: before they buy, when they buy, and after they buy.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 3 sub phases of each of those. So of those 9 things, from no one knows you to your best customer ever, I just simply ask. I say, what do you do for this one? And if they're not sure, I say, well, some people do this and they have an opt-in on their website, or they have a
Mm.
freebie and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, okay. Or sometimes they don't have anything. Sometimes it's word of mouth. And all I do is ask, what do you do for this? And I ask that 9 times. And I have not yet gotten to the 9th one because, and to answer your question even more accurately, people are more often than not front heavy and don't focus enough on the back end.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
so they're all hot, like, oh, we bought this thing and this sales funnel and all of this cool stuff. And then they're getting people and they're just bombarded after that. They don't really have a lot of organization afterwards. So people get pretty excited about getting their clients and don't tend to them well enough where they could easily multiply their business exponentially, because then you're not paying for those leads if they come back.
Yeah. Jade, I have to say how refreshing it is to hear what you just said, because here's what I hear is there was a framework given to me that I believed in, and I worked the framework, and every time I work the framework, it works.
Yeah.
You know,
Only every time.
just only every time, right? And I have a similar one. I call mine the significant 6, but I train, digital marketing professionals how to ask the questions for each one. And it's just like what you said, Jade. It business can be as complex as we make it or as easy as we allow it to be. Right.
Mhm.
And let me not say easy, as straightforward. Okay. Because I don't want people to think easy with anything, but as straightforward as we allow it to be. And how easy would it be for you to abort those 9 questions and get fancy all of a sudden? Say, you know what? It's working. There's nothing wrong with it. It's producing great results, but I want to create something new. I'm going to ask just this 10th and 11th question and see. So tell me a little bit because as a successful consultant, people need to hear, especially in my audience, the importance of having a framework, sticking to that framework, because everyone has one. Keep is not exclusive. I'm not exclusive. The next framework somebody purchases or whatever, it's not exclusive. What's exclusive is the effort that you put into it. So just tell me, talk to the audience a bit about why you do and you were able to just stick with that framework and really produce big results just sticking with that.
Yeah, great question. And I have two answers to that. First and foremost, I am my first case study. When I quit my job, and I would take any and every client that knew my name, and
Mm,
so I, to this day, and I've kept all them, so I'm grateful for the business, but also half of my clientele is like very mix and match. That's not really in line with this kind of calm collective process that I have now. I grew
yeah.
into that,
Okay.
and Keep did a great job training me, and I attend every conference and opportunity that jumps in front of me, because I'm just hungry as hell for that kind of thing,
Hmm.
because I'm still learning. But so I'm my first case study of not applying that framework, where I was just like, okay, I'll take this,
Mm,
and I'm still systematizing myself and figuring out how to keep everyone happy and fulfilled all around. So that's the first answer. But secondly, I think what my unique approach is, because again, this is not proprietary to Keep nor you, like you said. What my unique approach is that, if you recall a little bit ago, I was saying
mhm.
it's not that any of these things suck. You don't suck. Um, I have a particular charm about me, where when I talk through these stages with them, I'm less like, you know, implementer, engineer kind of, let's just write this down. Some people call it their playbook.
Mm,
That's not me. And I wouldn't sell that very well.
mhm.
What my edge is that, like, people, I can feel the weight coming off of them when they realize, like, hey, you have good stuff and you're a good person. And I always say, my catchphrase is, you're doing great. And
Yeah.
I say it all the time, and I say it so often that I actually started a membership called You're Doing Great,
Mm,
because um, we don't get told enough, and we're all like, if you get stuck in the moment, you're like, I'm stressed. This one thing
yeah.
isn't working. I spent so much money on this. I don't know why my sales aren't converting. I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you're doing great. Let's take a deep breath.
I just felt
Ask
those
you some
weren't even
questions.
my words, but you just said that, Jade, and I felt calm.
Yeah.
Like,
It's real. And when I say it, it's authentic too. I mean,
yeah.
sometimes when I'm being silly, I say it sarcastically, like, you're doing great, honey. but anyone who knows me knows that I do say it all the time, and I mean it from my heart. I'm a mom. I'm a sensitive soul. I
Hmm.
love people. I like to care for people. So I say it and I mean it, and
Hmm.
it comes across very authentic.
Yeah, yeah. I you bring up community,
Mm.
and I'm a strong proponent of community. I think that entrepreneurship can get lonely, and at times the more successful you get, the more lonely you get. But there's enough loneliness at every level, to go around. And I feel like everybody needs that place to go where they can unclothed and be them. They don't have to have the masks. And if I don't know something, I can say it here, and I'm not looked at as, not official. Like every expert needs a community, every consultant starting experience, because everybody needs community. So what went into your decision to create the community that you have?
I actually attended Tribe Live, so Stu McLaren, and anyone who has a membership knows who Stu McLaren is.
Hmm.
He's the go-to for running a membership business, and I am Greg Jenkins' Monkey Pod community manager, because I just can't get enough of these people. They're all amazing. So Greg's community is very, very large and very, very engaged. So he brought me on his team to give him some of that good old "You're Doing Great" TLC. And he
Mm.
and I attended Tribe Live together. He brought me on as his team. And I love Zoom chat. Like I'm the one that's like, you're doing great. And then like all of a sudden I'm everybody's best friend in the Zoom chat in the middle of a presentation. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, you have kids. I have kids. Wow,
Yes.
cool.
Yes.
You're doing great. So the Tribe Live was so big that there were 12 sub Zoom rooms of 300,
Mm.
400 people. So I was in Zoom room 11 and we still have a Facebook group where we're all best friends that I started.
Wow.
And throughout the chat, this whole last year has been, creating myself. So I was expressing myself about that, like, I'm still figuring out, what I want to be when I grow up, kind of a
Mhm.
thing. And everyone was like, yeah, they were like, you keep saying you're doing great. Start a membership. And I was like, what? And about 20 people said, shut up and take my money. So I accidentally started "You're doing great" in the chat
Love
at
it.
Time Live.
Love it. Love it.
And made it up from there. And I had a light bulb moment after it happened because people jumped in for the "You're doing great" spirit. And I was like, how can I turn this into something more than that? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a light bulb moment where I was like, I can apply my marketing automation skills to this. So I got a Keep
Love
app
it.
for it, and I built in using plus this SMS
Yep.
and SMS sequence tools. I built in a text accountability program, and that solves the two biggest problems that entrepreneurs have. Number one is not having enough of their people around them. So the community solves that. But
Mhm.
the accountability is huge because when you're an entrepreneur and your own boss, well, we could get lost going like, oh, I want to do this today. I want to do this today. I want to do this today. We're too creative and excitable that it's kind of hard to focus on the nitty gritty right in front of you.
Yep.
And our dreams are so lofty that we need to take the steps to get there. So I created a program using automation, using the Keep campaign builder, where people, they get texts where they can, reply with your goal. I'm going to blank by Friday. And then on Friday, it's like, hey, did you blank yet? Reply yes or no. And depending on their answer, I'm storing the data in the back end. So if they reply no too many times, we can give them a little extra, like, hey, what do you need? And they blank
Wow.
things with a lot of yeses. So it's this combination of like my "you're doing great" spirit, but also like, let's build things.
Jade, I have to pause because that was amazing how you just described your SMS accountability. And here's my I know my listeners, like I can foresee, I don't know when this episode is going live, but somebody just heard that and it clicked. They were like, oh, that's how we can do it. Or,
Mhm.
you're using SMS for accountability. So you check in and then they respond and you're logging these responses to see patterns to help those who are falling away. Not to get too deep into, the mechanics, but I'm intrigued myself. How are you? I know you're using Plus this for the SMS. What are you using for storing the data? Are you storing that in their Infusionsoft account, or are you storing it somewhere else where you can visualize the trends across the entire database?
Their temporary weekly goal gets stored in a custom field. That's
Hmm.
pretty simple. But when they answer yes or no, I use a plus this math tool to accumulate points for yes and no's. And then every week it runs through a decision diamond and says if it reaches more than 3 yeses, like that's when I give them a shout on social media. If they've been kicking butt lately,
Love
I'm
it.
like, Chris, what's up? You're amazing. And
Oh my
if
goodness.
they reach up to 3 no's, then I'll reach out personally and be like, hey, how can I support you? I don't know everything, but I know a lot of really good people that do
Yep.
know a lot of stuff.
Jade, you embody what I aspire every marketing automation professional to do. And that is really leverage technology to deliver to you the most qualified lead for whatever action is appropriate at that time, right? So you've got lead scoring applied internally to send a notification to you to shout them out externally or reach out internally. And the reason why I love this so much is because you can always tell, like just in our conversation, I could tell you know what you're doing, but you can always tell somebody who's familiar with technology versus somebody who's familiar with building systems,
Mm.
because they're separate, right? Somebody who's familiar with technology, they've got a bunch of AppSumo deals,
Mhm.
right? They've they may be using some email service provider that, like the newest one. Like when Kartra launched, I knew it. Everybody who signed up for Kartra told me exactly who they were. Right. I knew that entire crowd. I said, oh, I wouldn't have pinged you. But since you're using this brand new tool when all of these other established tools, were available. So those are people who like shiny object technology. I love it. This, and that. But then the people who actually build systems for that system that you built, Jade, you can't buy that funnel. Right? Like you can't download a sequence of landing pages and importable automations that do what you just said. That took you saying, okay, what do I need done? Okay, so based on this, okay, yeses mean this. Hey, actually, for no. So there was a process that you were working. And then as you worked that process, you identified, okay, here's my interest indicators, good and bad. How do I build a system to deliver those to me in an automated fashion?
Yes. And automation is not impersonal. It's anything but, it allows me to be me and serve my members in the most me way possible, which is a pretty unique energy.
Yep.
So, the responses to their goal setting is gifts, because I speak in gifts. I'm very fluent. Everyone who knows me knows that I can have entire conversations without typing a word.
Yes.
So they get gifts back, and just lots and lots of like, hey, I'm here for you, and I can embody that in my automation.
I love it. I love it. I did not come up with this. I often say automation is a magnifier. It just makes what you're doing more, more prevalent, more seen. But I can't remember who told me, but when I was saying it, it's like, yeah, automation's like the greatest wingman you'll ever have. And I was like, you know what? That's true. Like it sets you up to win all the time, whether you want to use a sports analogy, the greatest thrower of alley-oops, the club, whatever. But it is, and those who understand how to leverage it as such. So it's so necessary for consultants to hear this conversation, Jade, so that they understand their value and what they bring. And I know we're coming close to our time, but just share, because I want to give, I can say it, but I feel like it's just different when it comes from you all who are, consultants in the space. What are some of the words that you hear these business owners say to you when you've actually done what they've been trying to do, but have been distracted by the shiny object syndrome, and you've come in and reined things in, said, okay, this is what we're focusing on. They buy in, you get the system built, they get results. What are some of the words they use to you to explain that experience?
More often than not, they get a little silly with me and they say, Jade, you're doing great.
Right.
They use it back on me. I'm like, yeah, we did it. Clarity is a word that comes up a lot. I mean this. I don't mean to like downplay like my experience and my expertise at all, but I'm definitely I'm not the smartest digital marketer. I'm not the most systematized with the most experience with I'm not the most anything. I think where my talent lies is like my energy and my caring that kind of underlies my technological expertise. So I tend to attract clients who share that kind of sensitivity, and they want someone to care for them the way that they care for their business. And I'm like, I get it. I'm here for you. You're doing great. And I don't have any clients that don't appreciate that type of approach.
Mm-hmm.
I want to attract people that are a little rougher around the edges, let's say.
Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes as a consultant, you don't really know until you've done it, the transformation and the feeling that you will give somebody with your skills and your knowledge, but I love the fact that you used the word clarity, because I've found that clarity is currency. So if somebody says, oh my gosh, things are so clear, I value that more than somebody saying, hey, I just made $10,000 in 10 minutes. Thank you, Chris. Because, and Jade, I know you've seen this. You can stumble your way to $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. That does not mean you have clarity. You know what you could, you know what you did, and you can repeat it. When somebody says it's now clear, that lets me know you're now an owner of the understanding, which remove me, you'll be closer to being able to reproduce this for yourself because now you can see. So I love clarity. I think it is something that should be on the crosshair of every consultant, is to provide the maximum level of clarity in all that you do, which also means transparency. So last question for you. When you are, hey, I'm building a system. Do you have hey, get your hand out the cookie jar. Don't worry. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Just when it's done, you're there. Or are you so much when they ask questions like, hey, look, here's what's going on. Like, what is your approach?
Mm-hmm. Well, what's nice about this approach too is that it works every time. So it's repeatable. So I could have
Yes.
a win with the client and it's not, okay, bye, see you later. It's what's next.
Yeah.
And another thing about that too is that it's always ongoing income because even if what their next needs are, I can't do, which happens a lot. I'm not
Yeah.
an expert in everything. I'm just helping you diagnose more or less. And
Yeah.
some things I can do, especially with Keep. But Keep is not a all-in-one solution. So when a lot of times I'll do an interview process with a potential client and I'll do the questions for the 9 stages and I'll say, you know what, you really need someone who's awesome at WordPress. That is not my expertise. So I'm
Mm,
going to give you to someone that I know and I trust. And when that person needs something that I'm good at, they always come back to me.
I love it. You're the source for the solution as well as the resource. And at times it is valuable, just as valuable, if not more, to be resourceful. And I love your identification of not claiming to be an expert at everything. Right. I mean, it takes time to say a confident no, like, I don't know.
Mhm.
Like, but I can find somebody that, could help you with that. So, Jade, I can't thank you enough for your time on the podcast today. This was extremely enlightening for me. I had a lot of fun. As you know, it's not hard for me to have fun when I'm in front of somebody intelligent and has some experience on the battlefield, So how can our listeners stay connected with you?
Great question. So the membership, if you want to be told you're doing great, it's you're doing great today
Of
because
course.
you are doing great today.
Today.
You totally are. And so truth be told, I might have to get back to you on that because the reason I'm here with you today is because
Mhm.
I've actually decided to start pivoting away from consulting because I'm enjoying this conversation we had so much that
Love it.
I'm in the process of building a new brand right now that's exclusively for speaking and influencing on this topic, and then exclusively passing the leads off to qualified providers that I know and trust. Just like I just said a few minutes ago,
Mhm.
I'm going to build a legit business around that model.
Yeah,
So
love it.
I'm building those channels right now. Probably going to launch that in the next week. You're my second speaking gig on this topic, so I'm super stoked.
Yes, yes.
It's been really fun, and the reason I'm doing it, here's my closing comment. The reason I'm doing this is because of these people. I started from nothing a year ago, and now I have more business than I can handle, and I have to say no to a lot of people. And it's not because I'm the smartest person in the room, it's because I know a lot of really, really great people. And
Mm,
every time I meet someone amazing and smart and they give me so much, then I meet another person and more doors keep opening over and over again. And it's these people. And if I can do anything to inspire more entrepreneurs to stop wasting money and getting the right thing at the right time. And if I can give them to someone to actually provide that service that I know is really, really good at that, and that I can earn passive income doing that's the dream. And obviously I
yeah,
like talking. So
yeah, yeah. No, that's
it's a good
great.
fit. And I want to serve and I want to turn this into something bigger than the small handful I can handle consulting myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I will let you know. So hopefully
Great.
by the time you record this, we'll have something a little more, or by the time we distribute this, we'll have something a little more solid.
Yeah. Well, will they at least have you're doing great today
Mm-hmm.
to go to? And I'm, when you're talking, I just hear impact. Like you're looking to make a bigger impact. And yeah, hats off. Always an honorable approach, especially when you're doing so with authenticity and integrity. So thank you. Thank you for coming on to the podcast, Jade. This was such a great time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And I'll see you online.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the All Systems Go podcast. And I have to say this, I am not an I told you so type of person, but I feel like it's appropriate here. I told you we were going to discuss an automation building nugget in this podcast. And I just love the application of lead scoring and how she used that to monitor sentiment and react to it in a way where that was, congratulatory, or in another way that says, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? So as you already are doing, continue to think of ways that you can use automation to aid you along the customer journey. It's not just about the customer. It's about you as well. You realize that you're part of the customer journey. Yes. So if you didn't, hopefully this podcast, her example of her automation, her enthusiasm, her experience as a consultant gives you encouragement and understanding of what's in store for you in the space of automation. So who needed to hear this? I can, this episode is good for every marketing automation consultant, every digital marketing professional, anybody who is responsible for marketing, the results, measuring, optimizing, strategizing. This is a good one because Jade is walking the shoes that they are walking right now or will walk. Okay. And she did a great job of really detailing her path, her journey, and you can hear it in how she talks. This is what success looks like in this space. Okay. So if you found today's episode valuable, now is the time that I would ask for you to leave that 5-star rating and review, especially if you're a first-time listener. This is my formal invitation of you to subscribe and join the family of small businesses and enterprises of listeners of the All Systems Go podcast that get notified every Thursday when a new episode drops. Here at Automation Bridge, we're dedicated to turning digital marketing professionals into automation service providers. That is, people who understand strategy and technology, can match them in a way to deploy automated marketing and sales systems in your business for immediate growth and impact. Okay. So if that's you, if that's what you want to be responsible for, that's what you want to do for a living, you want to create a career in automation, I want you to go to automationbridge.com/ASP and take the next steps to talk to myself or someone on my team to assess if you'd be a good fit for any of our current program offerings. More specifically, our automation service provider program that we run in groups. We run these in cohorts where you're coupled with with other automation service providers in training, and we go through the curriculum together. Okay, so it gives you a formal means of learning all of the expertise that you need to show up confidently and provide an excellent service of automation for the industry. All right. We're also accepting guests for the podcast. So if you're a SaaS founder of a marketing or sales software, we'd love to discuss your software and your journey. And also, if you're a marketing automation consultant like Jade and you're experiencing success with your clients, and you like to share that with the collective audience, we'd like to invite you to be a guest as well. So go to automationbridge.com/guest. I can't stress the urgency here. The time is now that small businesses need more than ever. You heard Jade say she's not taking any more clients. She's booked. Okay. So where do those people go who can't get access to her, who can't get access to the next consultant? Well, the answer is you. If you step up, okay, the need is there. The need is there. Is your willingness? If it is, go to automationbridge.com again, /ASP, and let's talk. All of the show notes and podcasts are accessible at automationbridge.com /podcast. You can subscribe there and listen to all other episodes at your leisure. So until next time I see you online, automate responsibly, my friends.